Today we are talking about Michener. Michener, am I saying that right? So he is an author. I'll just read it here. He was an American author renowned for his massive, meticulously researched historical novels that explore the evolution of places and cultures over centuries. Raised in Pennsylvania and educated at Swarthmore, his breakout came with Tales of the South Pacific. If you're out and about and you see an old Tales of the South Pacific, that book is quite pricey. So that's one of the reasons why we're picking it up. I actually have a huge stack of Michener right over there. We're going to go through it and see what's all in there. And kind of like I'm aware of Michener, but it's been a long time since I've kind of like touched base on where he is at, like in the market, and also like how fast do people even want the damn books? Is it better to, to keep these all together? Would it be better to lot them out? So like, what are we going to do? I don't know, but we're going to find out. That's what we're going to do today. Inspired by his World War II service and winner of the Pulitzer Prize, he followed it with epic sagas like Hawaii, The Source, Texas, and Alaska, blending fiction with deep historical, cultural, and scientific detail. A prolific writer and generous philanthropist, Michener, I don't ever know if I'm saying that right, donated millions to educational and artistic causes, leaving a legacy as both a best-selling author and a public benefactor. So he sounds cool. I mean, do you guys know anything else about him that I would probably want to know? Like, it can be scary because like, authors like, they have their public persona and then like, what were they like in the back end? Like I just recently found out that one of my favorite philosophers was a womanizer and now I like him less. So oh, cool, Cassie. So let me grab a few of the books. So I don't have my overhead camera turned on right now, but this is from that Gauss collection. Here's the Tales of the South Pacific, but this is a paperback, which might still have some cost on it. So we're going to this is Return to Paradise, which I think is one of his earlier ones. So to kind of my understanding of Michener, I'm going to do that like 100 times. Is that he was just like a really, 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 really strong, like fiction writer. Like he would go to a place and like consume their culture and like be one with the existence. And then he would write about wherever he was at in a way that even the people that lived there were like, yeah, that motherfucker from here. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's kind of my gist. And he's like the GOAT of this kind of work. Is that accurate? Does anybody else contest that? So you can see a lot of his titles are, mostly in places. Now he does, and here's the Drifters. I've actually not seen this one. I should have put my overhead camera on. So, and this might be, if you guys can see, this might be an actual like non-book club first edition. We might have to look at that one. And I've not seen this one before, and it's got the black text block. So that might be worth looking at. Space. I don't know what this one's about, but I'm pretty sure this dude didn't go to space. So I don't know, but that's a really popular one. Chesapeake we have. Centennial. And then The Covenant, which you see this a lot of times in a 2-volume book club. But so this is the first edition here. And I don't know what prints these are. This lady struck me as an individual that would buy the books right as they came out. She seemed kind of on it. There's a lot of uncorrected proofs and stuff in this collection. We're selling those, I think, on tonight. Today's Friday. We're going to be live like 3 times today because I got to freaking catch up. So anyway, this is a newer title. He did, I think, pass. When did he pass? But he wrote 1997. It says he passed here. So he lived for 90 years. Good on you, buddy. Well played. So today is Friday. I know, right? And I am following the news today. If you guys haven't, speaking of Friday the 13th and weird things happening, we may have started a war with Iran. Not we, as in the United States, but we might as well be. Israel shot missiles into Tehran late last night. So in this morning, there's some back and forth that isn't looking so good. I won't necessarily get into it, but unless you want me to, but it's pretty crazy. Yeah. If you have an opportunity to fill up your gas tank, you should fill up your gas tank. No bullshit. Like barrels, like I think oil already hit $70. So, and I think it's been, not to use a pun, but bottom of the barrel because economic activity has slowed. So I don't know. Yeah, not again. This one's a little weird. It could get a little weird. And basically Trump is like threatening them that like, if you don't agree to a deal, we're going like, it's pretty aggressive rhetoric. And you guys could, I have it all pulled anyway. I like to follow history live because I feel like it's reading a history book like as it happens. Because I'm going to read about all this shit and, in 5-10, if we're still here, right? When some, historian like breaks it all down and brings the receipts and I'll read it from like 10 different, so, but it's also kind of neat to kind of like experience it and consume what's happening in real time. So you can like measure what you thought or think or what perceived is happening versus, once we can, the fog of war, right? It's hard to kind of tell what exactly is happening as things are happening. Anyway. Coffee's kicking in and I like this song. So I apologize if I haven't said hi to everybody who's coming in. There is a coupon active. What you're going to find in the Buy Now store is a lot. This is where all the fiction and trade editions and the orphan books and the Grishams and the Clancys and the Scott Leones and all of the different pop fiction authors this is the show where they just kind of sit. So if there's something in there you like, I'm happy to show you. They're all in the garage. But yeah, so anyway, let's jump into it. This is Terapeak, or the back-end research for eBay. And what I like to do when I'm doing a kind of an author study is, if you've been here before, you got to go to books. But we did learn doing this that we both have to, there's two categories on eBay. There's books, like new and used, and then there's antiquarian and collectible. Some folks think that it's just for old collectible books, but it's and collectible. So some people perceive it to be like an and or. So we do have to check to make sure that we're not missing listings. So so we've got it on books, got it applied. Let's go 90 days. We always go 90 days. Let's hit this again. Research. And once we finish this Michener, if we're still live, I can take requests. So, okay, so here's Michener for the last 90 days, which is how we look. Lots of, not that many sellers have sold, but about an 8% sell-through rate, which is not the worst I've seen. It's not the best I've seen. Kind of, it's probably up there with like the Connollys, the Cobins, the Rollins, a little bit more popular than Tom Clancy and stuff. So kind of in this range, a little under Clive Cussler, the last we checked. Let's see how many number of listings. I bet you his collectible percentage is much higher just based on what kind of author he is. So let's come over here to see active. And now this gives us an idea of about how many listings are available right now. So right now on eBay in this category, there are 11.5 thousand, which is a pretty good amount. Again, not the most we've seen. I actually thought it was going to be more. To kind of give you a kind of a like something to compare it to, John Grisham has 32,000 listings. Tom Clancy has near 21,000. So Rick Riordan, a young adult author, he 21,000, nearing 20,000. So, all right, let's go down to kind of give you an idea of how much, because economics, right? Supply and demand. If there's more books, that it's part of the determination of cost. So, let's go over here. But now we do know that we learned this the other day. We do have to check antiquarian collectible as well because there's a lot over here. Let's check sold again and we'll kind of average these out. So actually this is less than I thought. I'm completely wrong. I thought this would shoot up a little bit. So the books that are would be considered antiquarian or collectible, they sell. Oh wow, we'll look at a few of these. These are the ones that sold. We'll pull up a few of these Micheners. I don't have any of these, but it'll be worth looking at. I'll try not to pull up too many like just Easton presses and shit, because we all know about Easton Press. So let's come back over here to active and kind of see how many in this category are available. So 2,300. So let's just do this. Let's just bump this up to 14. Is that too much? 13? No, 14's right. And then we'll actually drop this down to like that. Now, I know my math isn't going to be 100% perfect, but we're not shooting for perfection. We're shooting more for like baselines and stuff like that. So here's one set of really expensive ones. So Hawaii in 2 volumes, Space in 2 volumes, Texas in 2 volumes. These look like what, Eastons or Franklins? Those are pretty as shit, man. I really like those. Yeah, those are nice. Here's different set. I think those are the same ones, same kind. We'll just skip that one. This is neat. So a lot of times they'll release, the trade edition, and then they'll do something like this concurrently with the trade edition. I don't know if that was the case with this. Here you go. That's cool. There's a signature. Very pretty, very pretty. The Source. I don't know what that one's about. This one I've never seen before. So this is what, his 3rd book maybe? Story of individual, the bridges at Tokori. That's what the dude looks like, or at least what he looked like. So very cool. Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with what each story is about. So let's come back over here. Let's go back to books, apply, hit sold, because I want to see what bangers are in here. And guys, we are going to be live tonight. We have a auction tonight. I think we have about 120 books. It's a lot of books that came out of this same collection. A lot of contemporary stuff, like I was saying, super fun stuff. Definitely a show where you can get a lot of books for not a lot of money. You know what I mean? There's going to be more, and I'm going to be adding books all day. So the Source is a survey of history of the Jewish people in the land of Israel from pre-monotheistic days through the birth of the modern state. That's a long time. I wonder what Michener would say about what's going on right now. So Hawaii is expensive. I've not seen this one. I'd like to find ones that aren't signed and like get arbitrary like value. I want to find just the individual like books that might have some value. Really? So Hawaii is the winner here, really? So it seems that the Bridges of Tokori are a real good one. Lots of people sell these. Here's the South Pacific. Wow, I thought that. Oh, it's a reprint cover. Okay. We're learning. We're downloading it in the database. So the Source, here's, I guess his early stuff in 1st edition is pretty solid. But then it seems like it kind of tapers off, maybe. Hopefully I'm not scrolling by too fast and you guys can kind of see. So what we're looking at, if you guys are just coming in, is the sold listings for Michener. Is that a real one or is that a reprint? Anyway, let's also look at this. Let's come up here. Let's type Michener. Let's come over to, is that filters? This is filters over here. Yep. Always come down to sold. You want to make sure that money is actually exchanged hands, is like a sales record in an auction. And then for kicks, let's sort by highest. Okay, so we saw that in Terapeak. We saw this in Terapeak. We saw that in Terapeak. So Sayonara, that's signed. I've seen this one. So a lot of these are signed. That's a paperback. What's this? I think I've got that here, actually. Bridges of Andu. I don't know what this one is either. That's the front of it. The heroic story of the revolt by the Hungarian people that made crystal clear to the world the true face of communism. This might be a dumb question, but what is a trade print? Is that like mass market? Okay. So trade edition. When I'm saying trade edition, that's probably what most people think of, like what a normal book size is. It's like someone's most often released like first print. And then let me see if I've got, hold on. So like this is a full size book. Like if you were to go to like Borders right now and just pick a newly released book that wasn't like special in some way, it would be like what I would call a trade edition size. So, and then like to compare it, then you have like what I call the book club edition size, which funnily enough can still also be first edition size, but but it's just kind of how I separate it in my head, whether I'm using like perfect vernacular. And a lot of times you'll see inside the front on the older books, especially, I don't know if this one does, but you'll actually see it say book club. There was a lot, it was the like vintage equivalent to like subscription services, and they're made out of cheaper materials. They're just made to be a more like financially accessible book. And they're usually released like after the the nicer trade editions. These usually have a nicer dust jacket. These, sometimes they're just made out of like paper. That's why a lot of times they're like falling apart and shit. So, the book club signing, so yeah. And I don't know. So the books in this show will all generally be like like trade edition size. The thing though to remember is that's like, there's a lot of guidelines and very few hard fast rules, even though there are hard fast rules too. But also, like, if you notice in a dust jacket that has a number. Can you guys see that? Instead of like nothing. Here, let me grab this other dust jacket. So, and you'll see in the corner of this jacket, there's no number, right? So if I see a jacket in a book that has the number in it, that kind of tells me that it's going to be a first edition or a first American edition, or it's going to be earlier in the publishing process as the same book, which with shittier materials that doesn't have like the number and stuff, right? So, but having said that, there has been many very expensive books that look like book clubs when you pick them up. But when you flip open the jacket, they'll have the number and then all of the other details that would denote it as being a trade edition or a first edition. So again, whether I'm using the right vernacular, usually when I'm saying trade edition, I'm more referring to size than I am, or like quality of the book versus whether it's like a first edition, because it can get pretty gnarly. Identifying first, you kind of have to get back to like how, like sometimes like on some of the Harry Potter ones, you got to know what factory it came out of. Angela, I'd love to see you. Have a great day at work. Stay safe out there. Yeah, guidelines versus rules. So it's neat. Like there's a website that I use sometimes, and of course the internet is great for kind of this stuff. It's let me see here. We'll just turn this. This is called it's FedPo. Here, I'll put it in the chat. Let me go to the home. So this is a really neat site. If you guys aren't aware of this, does that work if I put it in chat? Okay. So this is it kind of details some of like the finer points of how to identify some books, because it can be a little gnarly sometimes. Like some things have gutter codes where like you have to flip open a certain page somewhere in the back that has a certain code, which was put in there in the production process to know which batch and run it came out of. Like it gets super fun. I won't necessarily chase that rabbit trail right now, but this is a good site, like classics especially. Let's see one that's real, like Babbitt here. Like, how do you identify The Great Gatsby? And this will kind of run you through. The original price on the inside dust jacket was $2, 218 pages. And it kind of just goes down all the little details that you would need to really, really like, because as a reputable, like you want to know what you have. That way you can communicate it in good faith to your customers. So, because people sometimes grab a book that think it's one thing and it's not, and it's kind of sad when you find out. And I don't want to ever be responsible for that feeling. I'm too much of an empath. So very, very neat. If I sometimes kind of go through this just for kicks. As you might imagine, like here, the Andromeda strain, 1969, $5.95 on the dust jacket. There's your cover. 295 pages long. First, and then it'll even tell you like if it's stated on the copyright page. So I love this shit. Like, and this is what I'm talking about. So that kind of looked like a smaller book, but you see it still has the number in the corner. So like when I go to a house and I'm getting a whole big ass bookshelf full of book clubs because the person in the house was in the book club, and has 100 of them. You still want to kind of put your hands on each and every one, and especially depending on the title, to kind of check. It's like, did a first edition kind of sneak in there? Again, every book is worth saving, but sometimes, you got to bring certain books to certain audiences. Because God forbid, like something like a Lord of the Rings or something was tucked in there. And then sometimes the first edition was the book club. Depending on what's going on. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Like we're getting in and stuff like this. So the more you know, right? So here's, and then it goes through nonfictions, Onion Field, Wombat. And the other thing too is like, as someone who, we generally know like the books that we read, especially if you're not like a seller or something like that. This is a real good way to kind of get out of your bubble and maybe be introduced to some different genres, different authors that you may or may not would have given a chance the other way. Just going through these lists and like, okay, like we're in the classic section here. Like what are all the classics? You don't know what you don't know sometimes. So sometimes going through lists like this can kind of identify books to you that are classic that you've never even heard of. So depending on your what you like to read, it could really open your eyes. Like I've got a reprint of this. I had a reprint of this not too terribly long ago. Neat cover. So, and this is the other thing too. We have to remember that other countries exist, right? So like if you were to find, there's a first American edition. That isn't necessarily the true first edition, which is saying here that it was actually a book that came out of Germany first. So the German first edition is the true first. So then whenever it got imported over to America, that is the first American edition. Probably the most popular book that you see this in is, whatever you think of J.K. Rowling, notwithstanding, the Harry Potter series. So you can have the first American editions are they're getting harder to find. They're still pretty easy to find, but that's not the true first. The true first is across the pond. You can only, we've only had the first American editions unless somehow that's why they're so rare in the States, because they weren't ever produced here. So this is the first print. The original price is in pounds. So if you got a $sign on it, that ain't the one. So it's kind of neat stuff to think about. The Harry Potter. Oh, that's why I love your show in particular, the nerd shit. Yeah. So, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I've always wanted to kind of like, I'm just an autistic kid with a hyper focus and I'm info dumping on you. So I appreciate you guys letting me do that like immensely. So, everyone find a weird autistic kid and ask what their hyper focus is, and then just buckle in. Bring coffee, you might need it. Anyway, so that's kind of the deal with all that. Great question, Cassie. I think that was you that asked that question originally. But it's neat. It's neat because it kind of, not only do you have like the literary world, the written world with the authors and all of that, but then you have this like whole back end manufacturing and industry that supports all of these different things. And it's kind of neat when the two worlds kind of collide. You know what I'm saying? I've sent you a message about when I picked up thrifting that I never would have. Oh yeah, for reals. Yeah. If I ever if ever anything I say like randomly like brings joy into life and you find something based on something, I'd like, please share it with me. My whole motto is no book left behind, because I really don't want to leave any books behind. So I really will enjoy your finds. And if I get enough of them, I'll start bringing them onto the show and we'll throw them on YouTube and shit, do TikToks or whatever. But, I want to save all the books. So I think I have a copy of Hawaii here. That's probably the one I want to look up. Oh, I don't have a copy of Hawaii. That's unfortunate. I thought I did. So I may not look these up individually. It may not. I don't think I have anything here super special. I might just lot these up. The Drifters. Let's look up Michener real quick. I'm not familiar with this story. So here's this one. Stated first. Okay. Does it state first? So this one's interesting because it does say Book of the Month Club selection. But let's see. Let's dig in. I should have put my overhead camera on, but I didn't. Is this Random House? You guys, oh man, I hate Random House sometimes. Okay, so the way Random House works, and it's the only freaking one that does this, and I don't know if they still do it, but I think they did it for a while. So normally when you're determining whether or not something is a first print, it'll have like a little line. I'm sorry I don't have my overhead on, but there's a little number line there, right? And the print of the book is whatever number on that line is the lowest, okay? So, and that's generally the rule on most books. And if it doesn't have a number line, it's probably not a first edition. There's a lot of exceptions to everything that I'm saying. So just it's always worth just looking the damn thing up. But Random House specifically does something kind of weird with their line there. And basically it works like this. So like if I had a first edition, first print, it would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, probably, right? On most published books. But Random House does something weird. It never has a 1. It goes, and sometimes the numbers aren't even in order, but the way that you know you have a Random House, the publisher Random House, which this one is, first, it will state first edition. And then it will have the number line 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It won't have a 1. There's a reason why they did this. I don't remember why they did this. It had something to do with their factory process. But that's how you know. So if it doesn't actually say first edition, you do not have a first edition first print. Now, having said that, this one here does not have the stated first edition. Okay. But it does have the number line that does start with the 2. Now, if this was a first edition, I assume somewhere in this area, it would have like a bold first edition and then the very same number line. So because it's Random House and it doesn't have the stated first, but it does start with a 2, what I'm looking at is a first edition second print is what this is. So still a low print, but not the gold, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much that, guys. That's all I kind of wanted to come on and do today for my first show, is kind of run through this Michener collection, kind of talk about some random things. I think we're actually doing a show at noon, and then we're also going to do a show, the auction tonight, this evening. And I'm not going anywhere today. It's been very stressful. I'm very relaxed right now. I appreciate that. And I'm just going to keep adding books to that show for tonight. So hopefully it will be a good one. So yeah, if you're down, it'll be a little more fast paced. Well, I'll have my top down. We'll just be doing actual books then. I think I'm doing a flats show. In that show, we're going to do a $1 lightning round, like 5-second sudden deaths. This gal had so many books in her house, and a lot of them are really, really nice paperbacks. So I'm just, there's so many, I can't list them individually. I tried. I give up. So I'm just they're gonna go into the flats show. It's the show that looks like this, but there's gonna be a $1 book lightning round in this. This show is also tonight. It's got like 120 books in it. Again, a lot of stuff from this gal's collection, which is really rad. And I think we're doing this on Saturday. And we have a lot of like 1930s cookbooks and stuff. A lot of books, again, from the same gal's collection. So in both this show tonight and the cookbook show, everything is pre-listed with a photograph. And so pre-bid is definitely the way to go. I don't think these books are going to get I don't see a lot of bidding wars on these books, and everything's listed in there cheap. So the way to get it is to get in there, check it out, look at the throw your $2, $1 pre-bid on it, whatever it is. It's likely you're going to get it for that price. So, and I set up this way on purpose to give the folks everybody wins. Cause I tell you what, when I start the show and I already see a bunch of pre-bids, like it takes all the pressure off and we can just hang out. But personal journey. I need to get over that, right? So, but that's all I wanted to say. Thanks for swinging by this morning. We're going to do this very show again. Usually we do this on Mondays, but like I said, the air conditioner was all jacked and I was depressed and unhappy, so we didn't. But we're back and we're good to go. And like I said, we're doing, I think, 2 to 3 shows today, and we have a show tomorrow night as well. So let's rate somebody.